What were the biggest plays between the Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who are the players of the game? All that and more on the latest Eagles postgame live. What is going on, everybody? Eagles win! Eagles win! Eagles win! Moving on to 7-0 on the season. Best start in franchise history. We're breaking down the top takeaways, grading Jalen Hurts' performance, everything in between. Joining us, my man, Big Al from Edge of Philly Sports. What's up, Al?
What is going on? 7-0. Listen, as a Philly fan in general, I don't know I'm supposed to be this happy. I'm waiting for somebody to pinch me and wake me up, and then the Phillies weren't in the postseason, and the Eagles are 500 right now. I don't know what to do with myself.
Love it, man. Then we got my man Mark from the Tough Cover podcast. Check them out on Fox Sports The Gambler and Chalk Talk here at the Painted Lines and Edge of Philly Sports. What's up, Mark?
I'm doing well, and of course, since you just mentioned it at the Gambler, I'm sitting here stressing out PJ Walker going down the field against the Atlanta Falcons. But I mean, it's nice that I didn't have to stress out anything with this Eagles game. Like he mentioned with the Phillies, I tweeted out before the game, my brain has been in such Phils mode and such even getting into Sixers mode that I almost forgot how to watch the Birds game. It was like 15 minutes before. I hadn't done any of my normal pregame routines and any of that stuff. But then once the game came on, wasn't much to stress about. Didn't have to get nervous in the pregame. So nice to have a little bit of a carefree game that you never got nervous in.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in and just start talking about, I think, the biggest takeaway, and that's A.J. Brown. Elite. We have my man Quentin say close. He thought it was going to be a close game. It was not a close game. By the way, my score prediction of this game was 34-13. And the Eagles won 35-13. Make sure you don't miss any of our pregame shows. But A.J. Brown was absolutely sensational in this game. 3 touchdown catches. I'm going to throw up a highlight reel of all of them. Let's just revel in this. Al, what was your takeaway of A.J. Brown in this one?
How much we needed this, how much we didn't have this for how many years as Eagles fans. Not just a guy who's an elite pass catcher, an elite route runner, but a guy who can get the yards after the carry. I mean, that is something, and we always use it. We always go back to T.O. And saying the last time you had a really elite pass catcher and elite wide receiver. But the fact that he can get those yards after carry, I think one of the most impressive plays was not the touchdown, was that last big play he had that maybe he missed the touchdown by about 15 yards where he got tackled at the ankles. But the way he can shift, stop on a dime, turn left, turn right, and just blow past defenders. This and then still having guys like Devontae Smith behind you. Zach Pascal got his first taste as a touchdown as an Eagle. If you're not excited about him, you need to check your pulse.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's all 3 touchdown catches in slow motion as well. Mark, what was your take?
Yeah, I mean, that one specifically that they're showing on the screen right now that they scored in the second quarter. I mean, that's just perfection in terms of football. Jalen Hurts puts that the only place it can be put in double coverage. Jalen Hurts scores another touchdown in double coverage after scoring that one in the first quarter. I mean, Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown, the connection, we talked about it all offseason and all that stuff about the friendship and how huge that was going to be. And, I always kind of sort of rolled my eyes at it like, oh, does that stuff even really matter? And it does. Apparently, they had it right away. That connection, we saw it in week 1 and we're seeing it even more now, obviously. But, yeah, I'm a fantasy football guy. So I obviously talk about that a lot on the Tough Cover Radio Show every Saturday. And it's funny in my preseason rankings and in a lot of preseason rankings, not just mine, across the fantasy football industry, there was a very clear top 7. And I'm not going to run down those 7 names, but it's the 7 that have been around the top, the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adams types. And then after that, everyone kind of had their number 8. And a lot of people threw up AJ Brown as that potential number 8. And I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at it, not because of AJ Brown's talent, but because of Jalen Hurts. And if Jalen Hurts was going to be able to support a top 7 fantasy receiver, and because of Devonta Smith being in the offense, because of Dallas Goedert being in the offense. Well, today, AJ Brown had this huge game, obviously, this 3 touchdown performance, and that wasn't all that he had. And they still found ways to include Smith in the offense. They still found ways to include Goddard in the offense. I mean, this offense is just humming at such a high level that I don't think any of us saw going into the season. Even the most hype of the Eagles, supporters out there, I don't think we saw this offense being this good.
No, and I agree with you, Mark, on the fact of the whole friendship thing. I was that guy. I'm like, how much does that equate to? Let's be honest. If AJ Brown's not an elite receiver, I don't know if their friendship could overcome some of the other stuff. But overall, I mean, it's just a story that goes with all the great stories about the Birds so far this season.
Yeah, talk about just piggyback off that before we get into Jalen Hurts and kind of grade his day. I mean, it was obviously one of his career games here in Philadelphia. But just here's the offense. The first down, Eagles on first down averaged 10.2 yards per play. They averaged 11.1 yards per play on third down. Defensively, they held the Steelers on first down to 4.6 yards. And on third down, 2.4 yards. That's dominance. That is dominance. And I think the Steelers overall on third down were 1 of 12. So, but let's talk about this offense. Jalen Hurts finished the game with 4 touchdowns. We saw on the play there, the highlight reel to AJ Brown, that second touchdown throw, the touch on that throw. I don't know if he's making that pass last year. I really don't. His chemistry with Jalen Hurts or with AJ Brown is sensational. There were chemistry issues with Devontae Smith last year. The development of Jalen Hurts this season has been absolutely terrific. He ended the game 19 of 28, 285 yards. He was pulled in the fourth quarter because they got a game coming up on Thursday. He had a quarterback rating of 140.6. I'll throw it to you, Mark, to lead off, man. What does this mean for Jalen Hurts moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, on Chalk Talk and then I go on John Jansen's radio show every week on The Gambler, and we kind of have this running bit about the Gaia-meter with Jalen Hurts and where it is for the future. And it's kind of been a running bit on Chalk Talk since the offseason and since last year on if he'd be the quarterback next year. I think, that Gaia-meter is all the way up in terms of if it's a 1 to 10 scale, it's at a 10 right now in terms of it'd be pretty shocking to me if he's not the guy going forward. I think he has shown anything that you could have asked of him this year, and this game, probably one of the more clean performances we've ever seen from him. Probably, I'd say probably the best overall performance of this year even. I think that throw that I keep coming back to in the second quarter, I think that's the best throw of his career. That reminds me of some of the Foles throws in the postseason run, that one on the flea flicker in the NFC Championship towards the pylon. That's kind of the same level of throw that Jalen Hurts made today to AJ Brown in the second quarter. And that's not the only throw that he made, obviously, but I bet the same thing every week, which is a Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown prop, which means he has to get a rushing touchdown. They didn't even have to get it this week. Like, they didn't have to be aggressive enough to use Jalen Hurts on the ground that way. So I lost the bet, but I'm happy to lose it since it was a blowout win.
Here's a tweet by John Clark. The Eagles are 7-0, but Jalen Hurts is the first Eagles quarterback with 4 passing touchdowns of 25 plus yards in a game. in 53 years, and it was also versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Absolutely sensational. Coming into this game, especially on the pregame show, we talked about the Eagles exploring more of that vertical part of the Eagles offense, and we saw it. Jalen Hurts, I'm looking at the box score, 10.2 yards per completion. Love seeing that. What about you, Al? What was your take on Jalen Hurts?
I mean, if anybody had questions about him, everybody's, is he one dimensional? Is he only going to be able to run the ball? Is this all he can do? I think that's been put to bed at this point. I mean, a lot of the complaints still from people are they haven't played a good team. They don't play a team over 500 at this point until they play the Titans. But this is what good teams do. They beat bad teams. They beat them down. And this team makes me this game kind of reminds me of the 2017 Eagles when they played the Broncos and just routed them and Wentz went on a tear. But the fact that he's the quarterback in NFL in Eagles history to put up 4 touchdowns with 25 plus yards, they didn't even play in the red zone. They didn't need the red zone. So I mean, like, if you're a doubter, like, listen, I told you we talked about this going into the season a lot, Dibes, and I said I'm not 100% sold on Jalen Hurts. I'm buying the tickets. I'm on the train. I'm going to wear the conductor hat if I get any more on the Jalen Hurts train. There's no reason that he doesn't get he doesn't become the franchise quarterback outside of, his legs falling off at this point.
Yeah, the door is shut on that one. He's 100% going to get an extension, no doubt about it. What's your take, guys, on the Eagles offense today? Jalen Hurts, 28 attempts passing, the Eagles rushing the ball 20 times. Was anybody shocked by kind of the Eagles game plan, throwing the ball more today? I thought coming into this game, especially considering that 4-2-5 Pittsburgh Steelers defense where they have very light boxes, I thought for sure we would have seen much more of a rushing attack. I'm not complaining. Jalen Hurts having a career day with his arm is everything. But I was a little shocked at that. Any reaction on that, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that. I think that wasn't the original plan. I think you were kind of right. Maybe something more balanced, maybe more of the rushing. Once again, thinking about this short week has to be played into it a little bit. But I think once they got that first touchdown and was that, and that bomb in there, it's like, you know what, let's just start. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and let's run with it. I think that's exactly what happened.
It seems like they could have done. Sorry about that. It seems like they could have done literally whatever they wanted, to be quite honest, in terms of the game plan. And it's one of those games where, honestly, maybe they just wanted to try some things out and try some concepts out through the air. I'd have to look at the film after the fact, but I think it's one of those things where they literally could have ran whatever game plan that they wanted.
Yeah, I just got tweeted on Twitter about my love for college quarterbacks. And one was, I guess you're done scouting quarterbacks. No, I am never done scouting college quarterbacks. That's not a Jalen Hurts thing.
Isn't Dibes a QB factory?
Man of a draft. Yeah. All right, let's go on to this Eagles defense. They held Kenny Pickett to 5 yards per completion. They got to him 6 times, held him to a quarterback rating of 66.9, only 156 yards passing total. But some of that, like, you take away some bonehead penalties on the defense. Overall, I thought the pass rush was terrific today, especially on the interior. I'll throw it to you, Al. What was your take on the Jonathan Gannon's defense?
I mean, everything that we expected. I know we were texting before the game started. I had this at 34-17 Eagles, so they even did better than that. They kept them where they need to be. They let up some big plays, but you know what? Overall, not big plays, but more that they let Kenny use his legs, and you give up those plays when you play certain types of defense. But overall, like we said, they're plus 14 in turnovers at the end of this game, and move Pittsburgh down to -4. That's 2 extra possessions a game, as they alluded to at the end of the broadcast. But how can you not be happy? I mean, all I worry about a little bit is the Jordan. Is Jordan Davis okay? To play, especially on a short week, because you see him every week become more dominant over and over again. And then you have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bradbury and Slay just continue to be like this 1-2-3 knockout punch. Like, if you're not excited about this defense, I don't know. And listen, I was the first one. I wanted to fire Jonathan Gannon so much last year. I was so annoyed with him. And towards the end of the season, I started going, okay, maybe it's not him, it's personnel. But overall, you cannot be happy. And Kazir White continues to be the most unsung hero of the game.
Love it. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the defense did a fantastic job. I mean, I think anyone complaining about anything relating to the defense today is just trying to complain about something to find something to complain about. But the Steelers scored 13 points and obviously the one touchdown on a fantastic play call. That play call that they had with the Chase Claypool throw in the touchdown. A really, really good call there. But they were about to kick a field goal. They get a penalty that brings them a little closer, and then they run that play. So, I mean, this could have been them scoring 9 points if they don't get that penalty there, too. But, yeah, I feel really good about everything the defense had to do today. They kept Najee Harris, his first 5 attempts went for 0 yards, which has been a theme for Najee Harris, not just an Eagles theme this year, but he's been struggling all year long. But Kenny Pickett was held to 5 yards per attempt as well in this game. So a lot to be excited about here for the Eagles defense. Yeah, I mean, I think they're one of the top 5 units in terms of defenses across the NFL at this point, and they should be. They have the talent to be. So I think at this point, that I really liked what you said about the 2017 Denver game, and that kind of crossed my mind as well. That's what this performance felt like, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson getting that tipped pick and them going to celebrate in the end zone, Kelsey having the Batman mask on. It was a true clowning. Like they clowned the Steelers today, and
Speaking of Kelsey, did you see Lane Johnson's costume dressed up like Jason Kelsey going into the game? It was amazing.
I did, yeah.
Love it. Quentin says, I wonder how many catches the Steelers tight ends had today. Again, go ahead.
Freiermuth had 4 for 57. I do know that on 7 targets.
Again, I go down to third down. The Steelers were held to 1 of 12 on third down. Had an overall average of 2.4 yards per play on third down. Jonathan Gannon absolutely took that team out of the game on that down. And then timely plays. Like you said, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tipped interception. I think that was TJ Edwards who tipped that ball. This team continues, like Al said, to get defensive takeaways. That was the biggest, arguably the biggest thing about this year's team versus last year's team and how far they have come in that area. They went from literally one of the worst to the best now. They should probably be the best. That is awesome. Anybody worried about Jordan Davis? He was eventually ruled out of this game. He played really well in that first half before having to be carried off the field. And then he went and was carted to the locker room. What does that mean for this Eagles defense? I mean, you look at kind of Hargrave stepping up big time in this game. He had 2 sacks. Milton Williams had a sack. Overall, as I said earlier, I thought the interior defensive line was really strong. But is anybody worried about Jordan Davis? Because hopefully it's not a serious injury, but I thought was getting better and better every single week. I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to have everyone healthy, but you only have to really replace about like 40% or less of the snap count there. And this is why you build up the interior D-line depth, I guess, if you're Howie. And it's something that he's been obsessed with, obviously, to the point where we have the most money devoted to the defensive tackle position by a long shot across the entire National Football League. So, I mean, in this situation, obviously you want everyone healthy, but you probably are more equipped to handle this than any other team in the NFL in terms of losing an interior defensive lineman. So I don't think it should affect them, especially against the Houston Texans.
Yeah. And when you talk about like run defense, here's a fun fact. Today was the first game of the season Najee Harris had 4.0 yards or more in a game this year. He had exactly 4.0 today. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Jordan Davis, I said that earlier with you. He's getting better every week. You see his snap count building every week. I'm hoping the carting off is because he's a big man. A lot of times these bigger guys, they'll cart him off not to put any increased weight on him. Plus, who wants to carry it out? It's just easier to cart him out. Yeah, but I mean, the fact is, I'll agree with you guys. We have the depth. I mean, even the fact now that they bring Quinn in from the Bears, you can start using guys that they used outside, move them inside a little bit, and kind of and make up for that right now. So hopefully it's not a long-term thing because he is disruptive in that middle. Just standing there alone for a man that size, but as athletic as he is, and like I said, getting better every week. We really hope this is going to be the key factor. The only thing that can really derail this team is injuries. But I'm just let's cross our fingers. I'll keep my eye on the injury report, and we'll report back when we know more.
Yeah. Interesting. Really good comment here by Quinn. Robert Quinn had some pressures. Does anybody recognize Robert Quinn on the field? I off the top of my head, I can't think of
He
it.
had that one penalty that he was offsides that one time. I believe that was him. But then he had pressure on Pickett right then and there. He missed his first sack as an Eagle by a hair. So yeah.
Yeah, he had one.
Yeah, there was one where he was coming around the edge that both edges kind of collapsed, but someone, I forget who it was, to be honest, it might have been Hargrave. He got a sack up the middle. But that was kind of a situation where the whole O-line kind of collapsed, where I don't know if that really mattered that he got the pressure, but I do think he got pressure.
All right.
By the way,
yeah,
just real quick, because it came up on my TV, Sirianni's doing his press conference with both of his little kids up on the podium. It's pretty cool.
That's when you know a team's doing well. When you could bring your kids up on the podium, you're not worried about getting, crucified by the news or any of the reporters out there. Like I said, once again, not to keep doing this 2017 comparison, it's this looseness. It's this we're having fun. This team is playing as like they've been best friends since high school, like AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts. So. I mean, everybody should be excited about these Eagles because, like I said, outside of some key injuries, the sky's the limit right now.
Let's talk about that limit. You look at the upcoming schedule here. The Eagles sit at 7-0. They've got a short rest here. Thursday night football against Houston in Houston. Then Washington at Indianapolis, Green Bay, and so forth. What is the limit for this team? Like, where are we, guys? Like, we keep waiting for this shoe to kind of drop just a little bit. As a Philly fan, as a pessimistic, naturally sports fan, I keep being a little kind of hesitant when it comes to grading this team because they have looked so dominant on both sides of the football. But they keep rolling, man. And I want to ask you, Al, like, where are we at? Like they're nearly at the halfway mark of this season. What's your projected win total now?
Man, it's so hard trying not to be so ahead of myself. That whole shoe dropping thing. I'm probably one of the worst at that. But I only can. Here's my thing. Looking at this schedule right now, the one game that probably scares me the most is the Dallas game because that'll be the third night on the road for them in a row. Dallas is still playing pretty good, and today, I mean, once again, they played the Bears like we played the Steelers. Two not such great teams, but they're looking like they're getting better and better. It being in Dallas, December 24th, third night in a row, like I said, third game in a row where they're playing on the road. That could be a little bit of a letdown game, unless Aaron Rodgers has some epiphany in the next coming weeks. That Green Bay game does not scare me, especially being at home. The Titans are the best team that right now, best record that we're going up against. I mean, the first team having over 500 still don't scare me. Giants, I don't know, man. I'm going to go maybe 3 losses at this point, and 1 or 2 of them could be just because we're playing it safe.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's going to come down to how much they push for it and how much they actually care about winning a ton of games, because I think I think they're going to be the 1 seed. I can confidently say that I think the Eagles will be the number 1 seed and get the bye in the NFC. So how many wins is that going to take? I don't know if it's even going to take 14. Like, I think 13 wins might get the 1 seed with the parity you're seeing across the NFC. I mean, across the NFL in general, but especially in the NFC, where, the Chiefs and the Bills have each other to compete with. I don't even know who that second team is in the NFC. It might be Dallas or the Giants, who are both in our division. But I don't quite believe in the Giants, and we already have the 1 win over Dallas. So at the very worst, they don't have the tiebreaker over us at the end of the year. So I think that they probably end up with 13 or 14 wins. I think that they're going to be heavily favored by at least a touchdown in every game they play, except the Dallas game on the road. I think Green Bay's an 11.5 point underdog tonight, or an 11-point underdog tonight in Buffalo. They'll probably be at least an 8-9 point underdog in Philadelphia, unless something happens over the next couple of weeks. Tennessee will probably be about a touchdown underdog. Like, I think, they'll probably find a way to lose one of those games because it's the NFL and it's hard to win every game. But it's hard to see a game that I'm going to go into it expecting a loss. And even this game today, I was kind of thinking, maybe it feels like everyone's just writing it off and chalking it up as a win a bit too early. And I knew that they'd win the game, but I thought, maybe it'd be a little closer than the experts think. Not the case, obviously. So I'm just going to stop doubting the Eagles, obviously, when they're favored heavily.
Yeah, you could. It's amazing how fast the NFC has truly declined, because I look at that Green Bay game, like you said, Al, I'm not worried. It's really the New York game and the Dallas game, and then New York at the end. This is going to be a recurring question as we progress, because it's now this season has been so surreal, but now it's getting kind of real. I'm going to ask you, Mark, what is the percentage chance right now the Eagles finish this season undefeated? It is crazy to think, but is it possible? Because it's definitely something to talk about.
It's interesting. I don't want to just assign a number to it without looking. So I'm curious what the odds are on that. I'd have to look into it, but yeah, I mean, it's probably like 10%, maybe 5%. I'd have to look into it.
I was thinking around the 5% chance.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I was thinking around that 5% chance.
Yeah, I'd have to look into the implied probability. I do know Barstool Sportsbook, no free ads, but I do know that they have an undefeated Eagles super boost up that they were talking about today. So I'm going to check that out actually to see if it's still up or if they had to take it down during the game. But I mean, it's going to come down to how much they care about it. And I don't think that they will. If I had to make a guess, even if they're 15-0, and I think at that point they'd probably have the tiebreaker, locked up against the Giants and the Cowboys. And I don't think that they'd have anyone else to worry about at that point. I don't think Minnesota's going to go 14-1 or anything like that. So I think at that point they'd probably rest starters for a couple games, to be honest, or at least play them limited snaps.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Al? Because I look at this schedule and it's just such a walkthrough.
It's hard not to, but ultimately, I don't think going undefeated is going to be top of their brain, especially if they come into it. The only time the Giants, like he said, if the Giants somehow keep pace with us, then maybe that's where it becomes an issue, just because you want to make sure you have that tiebreaker locked up. But even then, I mean, I'm not worried about it. I think it's the Gardner Minshew show, possibly as early as December 24th. But that Saints game has Gardner Minshew written all over it. And if the Giants come back down to earth, or it's just a non-factor at that point, I think Gardner Minshew is going to get a lot more playing time this year than he expected, and not because of injury.
Real quick thought on that Saints game, because the Saints did win today. Unfortunately, that's the only negative of today for the Eagles, is that the Saints won and actually looked pretty good doing it. But that Saints game, Howie Roseman might be like, "You're not resting anyone, Nick. We need to win that game. That pick needs to be good enough to go get Will Anderson or something." So, that might be a little subplot there, or. It's the Gardner Minshew get me a starting quarterback job next year game. And that's how he becomes the starting quarterback of the, Indianapolis Colts or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, even with Minshew in, doesn't mean this game is over. I mean, listen, A.J. Brown's not playing. A lot of the offensive line is not playing. But against the Saints, that could be still a win, even with Minshew at the helm. But it, like I said, it is a little kick in the teeth. I want that Saints pick to be 5 or below. It'd be that what icing on the cherry on the top of this cupcake here at the end of the game, at the end of the season, would be having a top 5 pick on top of it all.
Yeah, I woke up this morning thinking about that pick a lot, as I always am. And I was
I'm thinking right tackle. Right tackle of the future might be
that's
where it's at.
literally my thought. That's so funny. It's like I was thinking, like, because I always think about what the Eagles' needs are and where they could go or how he could, surprise everyone. Right tackle was where my head was at. Like, if they potentially trade back for a team that wants Bryce Young, for a team that wants CJ Stroud, and get a really nice return, a right tackle that can fill in at right guard for a year or two and replace Lane Johnson down the road, especially a guy that maybe falls a little bit. That seems like that's got Howie written all over it.
Oh, absolutely. And on top of it, the only other spots, if I would think anywhere else, would be possibly in the line. It'd be the first time he goes linebacker in the first round. Maybe not the number 5, but maybe uses that second pick if he has it. But and or secondary, because you got a couple guys who are playing top tier, but they're going to want to get paid. You got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on top of the fact with Kazir White and a couple guys trying to play a little prove it deals.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of free agents on the Eagles coming up. Not saying they won't sign a lot of them, but there's a lot of guys on this team that will be on different teams next year and the year after. So it does make sense to kind of trade back and recoup some and fill in some holes. I look at edge rusher. I look at cornerback as my top 2 needs on this team 100%. Even with the Robert Quinn addition, I don't think he's playing on this team next year. And I think – guys like Will Anderson, Miles Murphy, I'll even say defensive tackle. Like, who knows where Hargrave is or Cox is this time next year. Jalen Carter is 100% on the table. Breesy out of Michigan, or is that Clemson? I think. Absolutely on the table. So there's guys that really would fit the Eagles' needs. Any thoughts, Mark?
Will Anderson are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. I think that guy's an absolute menace.
And I think that's some people's dreams on top of it too.
Yeah. They're absolutely mine. The only thing that's interesting is, and this is going to be a conversation that Dives and I'm sure talk about all offseason, is the cornerback position, because I'm surprised to hear you listed it as one of the top 2 needs, but we obviously don't know what the situation's going to be, obviously, with Bradbury and with Gardner Johnson, and who knows who's here. So that's probably the asterisk on that. But it is going to be a loaded cornerback class next year. It's looking like that's going to be, in the last couple of years, we've seen loaded quarterback classes that one year. With all the guys going in the first round, I think it was 5 or 6 of them. We've seen insanely loaded wide receiver years. We've seen loaded O-line years. This is going to be a loaded corner year, especially in that top 15 to 20, I think.
Yeah, Cam Smith out of South Carolina. Keely Ringo out of Georgia is one of my absolute favorites in this draft. Joey Porter Jr. on day 2 would be the biggest home run pick for the Eagles. I don't want to make this an NFL draft show, but there's some good ones.
Real quick, I've seen Joey Porter Jr. jumping up as like a top 15 guy in the first round. I've seen his name is escaping me. Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting it right now. But
Eli Ricks hasn't played much.
Yeah, he's the name where I know people are really, really high on the traits, and people are really, really high on the tape from LSU. So I think he'll probably end up being almost like a Stingley, where he still ends up going top, 10 to 15, even if there's not as much tape to show on it as of recent. But yeah, I guess this is all NFL draft talk for the offseason.
Which I'm sure we'll have plenty of.
Oh yeah, that's my bread and butter right there. Let's go on to player of the game here. I'll throw it to you, Al, first. Who is your player of the game against the Steelers?
Well, I mean, how do you not pick A.J. Brown? I feel like that's a give me in this place. And I don't want to steal him, but yeah, A.J. Brown, 3 touchdowns, almost 4. You can't, 156 yards. You can't not pick him. I want not that he needed one, but his breakout game as a Philadelphia Eagle, and A.J. Brown all the way.
Yeah. What about you, Mark?
Since I won't just take AJ Brown and double up, I'll take Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had to throw him the ball. He had to get the ball there. So, obviously, it's got to be one of those two guys. And I think this is one of the best games he's played, probably the cleanest game he's played. And, I think he had two of the best throws he's made as a professional quarterback. So I got to go with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, my player of the game prediction was Miles Sanders. He had 9 carries for 78 yards, 8.7 yards per carry, but he only had 9 carries. I'll just go the Eagles secondary again. Now, this one's hard. Who's my third? Because I thought
I'll give you one. Dallas Goedert was one if I was going to pick a runner-up. Had some amazing circus catches. He was much more clutch on the catch, and he was a big part of this game that kept moving them down the field on top of it. So I'll give you, if I was going to give you one, Dallas Goedert would be my number 2.
I like that a lot. What about you, Mark? Any guesses on a third player of the game?
Yeah, I'll just throw Miles Sanders out there just because he was so efficient. Even if it's 9 carries, 78 yards, I'll take 18 carries for 78 yards. So divide that in half and give it to me in 9 carries. Even if it's not a lot of volume, I'll take quality over quantity.
I'm going to go interior defensive line. I'm going to cheat, as I always do, and just say I thought the interior defensive line for the Eagles was really, really good throughout the majority of this game. Again, Hargrave had 2 sacks. Tui Pelotu had a sack. Milton Williams had a sack. I think the Eagles' secondary was making plays, but a big part of that was because the Eagles were making and causing so much havoc from the interior line. So I'm going to go Eagles interior defensive line as my player of the game. Let's wrap up shop here. Al, plugs and final thoughts on the W.
Final thoughts is anything you want to take away from it is they were able to score continuously throughout all 4 quarters. It wasn't all like locked up in the second quarter. So you could totally get that monkey off the back a little bit. But it once again, you keep looking at the 2017 season when they have big games like this where they just manhandled teams. This is the perfect game to have on a short week going into Houston and keeping, guys relatively healthy outside of Jordan Davis. So just a great game all around. Just super excited. Having big game after big game in Philly has just been amazing. My cardiologist has doubled up my pills, but it's been worth it. But as you know, you can find me on the Edge of Philly Sports Network at all times. Partner up here with the Painted Lines and all our shows live on www.eopsports.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're there.
Love it, man. Mark, plugs, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm officially ready to say that I think the Philadelphia Eagles should be the Super Bowl favorites, and it's mainly because of the NFC. The Bills and the Chiefs have each other to deal with, so I think that alone, I think that's a 50-50 proposition no matter how you slice it in terms of who wins an AFC Championship game. Even if it's in Buffalo, I think the Chiefs are about 50-50 with Buffalo. So I think just by proxy of not having that second team in the NFC, I think what we saw today and them taking care of business against a team that obviously the Steelers are not a good team, but in manhandling them and never letting them even have a thought of being in the game. That's what you do when you're a good team. And that's exactly what they did. But you can find me at Mark Henry Jr. _ on Twitter. You can check out my stuff every Saturday on The Gambler from 11 to 1 each Saturday, talking college football, talking Phillies, whatever's going on in the news. I do Chalk Talk every Tuesday night with Shane Half right here. I'm on, Party on Broad sometimes when me and Dives are able to connect on a Monday. I do a ton of stuff at The Gambler on Sean Brace and John Jansen show. But just follow me at Mark Henry Jr. _ and you'll see it all.
Love it, man. Mark is one of the best in the game. Go give him a follow. My final thoughts is this Eagles offense is so freaking legit, man. Every single week I'm waiting for them to kind of pause it or hit the brakes just a tad. But you look, there's segments in this game. I look at first down offense, a pass for 17 yards, a pass for 14 yards, 29-yard touchdown pass to Brown. The following possession, pass for 12. You go to the Eagles' second half. They kind of followed that up on first down, pass for 10, run for 10, pass for 34, touchdown pass to Zach Pascal. This team continuously comes up in big moments when they need to offensively. And I go back to like the fourth quarters of previous games when they had to own time of possession and kind of settle things down. This team continues to rise when they need to. So anybody that's like saying like face adversity, like they do. They continuously show up when they need to. So offensive wise, the numbers of this team are going to be absolutely ridiculous after week 7 as they were in the bye week. So plugs, party on Broad. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I got to figure it out because we have Sixers tomorrow as well as Phillies. And then there's just too much going on right now. So we'll probably push it back. I don't freaking know anymore.
We'll have an updated schedule for them tomorrow. What's going on both networks? You know what I mean?
Everything's just mushing together at this point. Like
Mhm.
I'm just recovering from Friday night's Phillies game. Literally, that was the most I drank in a night in a long time. But guys, thank you everybody for watching, commenting. Please be sure to like, subscribe wherever you're watching. Please go check out Edge of Philly Sports, eopsports.com, or Facebook, wherever you follow or get your sports content. My man Mark down there at Mark Henry Jr. _ If you want to win some money, if you love fantasy football, go check him out. Fox Sports The Gambler on Saturdays. Absolutely kills it, man. So happy for you, Mark. Thank you so much for joining. And Chalk Talk. He also does Chalk Talk with my man Shane Half. So if you want to hear real analysis, go check the show out as well. Thank you everyone for watching. The Eagles 7-0 for the first time in franchise history. Where do they go from here? The sky is the limit. For Big Al, for Mark, for myself, stay awesome, everyone, and go Birds.